Monica, how long have you been a nurse?
I've been a nurse for the past 6 years.
Do you still enjoy it?
I love it. I want to study to be a doctor one day.
Really? You never told me that.
Well, you never asked. So tell me, Mr. Campbell, how long have you lived in Washington?
We've lived in Washington ever since we got married. That was about 38 years ago.
That's a long time.
Have you ever thought about getting married?
No one has ever asked.
That's hard to believe. Monica, how long have you been a nurse?
I've been a nurse for the past 6 years.
Do you still enjoy it?
I love it. I want to study to be a doctor one day.
Really? You never told me that.
Well, you never asked. So tell me, Mr. Campbell, how long have you lived in Washington?
We've lived in Washington ever since we got married. That was about 38 years ago.
That's a long time.
Have you ever thought about getting married?
No one has ever asked.
That's hard to believe. Monica, how long have you been a nurse?
I've been a nurse for the past 6 years.
Do you still enjoy it?
I love it. I want to study to be a doctor one day.
Really? You never told me that.
Well, you never asked. So tell me, Mr. Campbell, how long have you lived in Washington?
We've lived in Washington ever since we got married. That was about 38 years ago.
That's a long time.
Have you ever thought about getting married?
No one has ever asked.
That's hard to believe. How long have you been in the United States, Monica?
I've been here since January.
Do you like it?
Well, I was lonely at first, but recently I made some good friends, and now I'm enjoying myself much more.
How long have you known David?
I've known David for 6 weeks.
We met in the LAI cafeteria.
How long have you been in the United States, Monica?
I've been here since January.
Do you like it?
Well, I was lonely at first, but recently I made some good friends, and now I'm enjoying myself much more.
How long have you known David?
I've known David for 6 weeks.
We met in the LAI cafeteria.
How long have you been in the United States, Monica?
I've been here since January.
Do you like it?
Well, I was lonely at first, but recently I made some good friends, and now I'm enjoying myself much more.
How long have you known David?
I've known David for 6 weeks.
We met in the LAI cafeteria.
John, Peter, it's great to see you again. I haven't seen you in years.
It's been a long time, that's for sure. How you been?
I've been fine. Great, in fact. How are things going with you?
Oh, not too bad. Do you still live on Highland Avenue?
No, we haven't lived there in years. We moved out to Glendale about 3 years ago. How about you? Are you still living in Orange County?
Oh, I haven't lived in Orange County since 1988. I moved to Venice Beach.
That sounds like fun.
It is.
John, Peter, it's great to see you again. I haven't seen you in years.
It's been a long time, that's for sure. How you been?
I've been fine. Great, in fact. How are things going with you?
Oh, not too bad. Do you still live on Highland Avenue?
No, we haven't lived there in years. We moved out to Glendale about 3 years ago. How about you? Are you still living in Orange County?
Oh, I haven't lived in Orange County since 1988. I moved to Venice Beach.
That sounds like fun.
It is.
John, Peter, it's great to see you again. I haven't seen you in years.
It's been a long time, that's for sure. How you been?
I've been fine. Great, in fact. How are things going with you?
Oh, not too bad. Do you still live on Highland Avenue?
No, we haven't lived there in years. We moved out to Glendale about 3 years ago. How about you? Are you still living in Orange County?
Oh, I haven't lived in Orange County since 1988. I moved to Venice Beach.
That sounds like fun.
It is.
Hello. It is a perfect day. And because in Book Unit, I'm going to be continuing to talk about the present perfect tense, I thought maybe we could be outside for our class today. But, you know, since I'm going to be reflecting on these verbs, I think I need something to reflect off. So let's see. Oh, here we are. Here's a building. We can see the reflections of the clouds. And we can also talk about the present perfect tense with for and since. Now, remember what I told you about the present perfect tense. We start with the subject pronoun plus the helper verb plus the past participle. Now, for example, the subject pronoun I. With this tense, what's our helper verb? Always have, plus, in this case, we'll use the verb eaten. I have eaten. Now, what's that past participle? Do you remember what I told you in our last unit? The past participle is one of the main parts of the verb. The regular verbs, base form eat, simple past ate, and past participle eaten. But you really can't see this very well, can you? You know what? Maybe we should go back to the classroom. What do you think? Let's give it a try. Oh. Now, there we are. Yes, here we go. Book 3, Unit, the present perfect tense with for and since. 2 prepositions. Maybe this will be a little bit easier for us to work with, huh? As I was saying, the past participle is one of the main parts of a verb. Let's take a regular verb. The base form, finish, we'll use the verb finish, of course, to complete, to end. The simple past is finished. And the past participle, in this case with a regular verb, is the same as the simple past, finished. I finish my work. Yesterday I finished my work. And all this week I have finished my work. Now, what about irregular verbs? Of course, because they're irregular, they're all different. But the base form in this case, we'll use the verb eat. Today, I eat my lunch. Yesterday, I ate my lunch. And all this week, I have eaten my lunch. Let's talk about some of these past participles. I'm going to teach you a number of them. And of course, this is a list for you to learn, to study carefully. Let's talk about the verb clean. I clean my room today. Yesterday, I cleaned my room. And it's a regular verb, so the past participle is also cleaned. I have cleaned my room all this week. The base form of the verb is do. The simple past is did. The past participle is done. I do my homework today. I did my homework yesterday. And I have done my homework all week long. How about that verb be? Here are 3, of course, of the most important irregular verbs. The base form is be. I am today. The simple past is was or were. I was yesterday. You were yesterday. And the past participle is been. That past participle been. I have been at school all week. Monica has been at school all week. Look at that word been, because it's going to be a very important word for you to learn. There are many other tenses that use this past participle been. We'll be talking about them in the next few lessons. So, I am, you are. I was, you were. I have been, you have been. He, she, or it has been in the present perfect. And then, of course, the verb have. The simple past is had, and the past participle is also had. I have a lesson to teach you. Yesterday I had a lesson to teach you, and I have had lessons to teach you during this entire video series. Let's go on and look at some more verbs. The base form of the verb is bite. The simple past is bit. And in this case, the past participle is bitten. I bite my hand today. Yesterday, I bit my hand. And all week, I have bitten my hand. Don't ask me why, but it was the first sentence I thought of. Break. I break my pencil all the time. Yesterday, I broke my pencil. And all week, I have broken my pencil. The base form break, the simple past broke, the past participle broken. Have you broken any rules? Choose is the base form of the verb. I choose to come to class today. I chose to come to class yesterday, and I have chosen to come to class all this week. Choose, chose, chosen. How about give? I give a gift to my students when I teach them well. I gave a gift to my students yesterday, and I have given gifts to my students all week. You see that? Give, gave, and given. There are no rules for these irregular verbs. These are verbs that you just simply need to learn. Let's look at some more. Blow. I blow my horn today. I blew my horn yesterday. I have blown my horn all week long. Blow, blew, blown. You notice a lot of these past participles end in the letter N. Draw. I draw a picture today. I drew a picture yesterday, and I have drawn pictures all week long. Draw, drew, drawn. Fly. I fly my kite today. I flew my kite yesterday. I have flown my kite all week long. Fly, flew, and flown. How about grow? Actually, grow is going to look a lot like blow. I grow flowers in my garden. I grew some beautiful flowers last season, and I have grown beautiful flowers for the past several seasons. Grow, grew, and grown. How about the verb bring? I bring my lunch to school every day. I brought my lunch to school yesterday, and in fact, I have brought my lunch to school all week. Bring, brought, and brought. Buy. I buy my clothes in a department store. I bought my clothes in a department store last year. And I have bought my clothes in the same department store for the past several years. Buy, bought, and bought. How about catch? Did you catch a cold this winter? No, that's actually using the past. Let me do another one. I catch fish when I go fishing. I caught some fish when I went fishing last week, and I have caught some fish when I've gone fishing. I have gone fishing for the past several weeks. Catch, caught, and caught. How about fight? I fight to be understood. I fought to be understood last week, and I have fought to be understood for the past several weeks. So these are the base form, the simple past, and the past participle of several verbs. You can find these verbs and others in a list in your American English workbooks. Again, let's talk about the way we construct these present perfect sentences. We start with the subject pronoun or with whatever is our subject in general. Then the helper verb, which in this tense is always what? It's always going to be the verb have, plus the past participle. So, I plus have plus eaten. The conjugation of have, again, is I have, you have, he has, H-A-S, she has, it has. We have, you have, they have. It's only that third person singular which is different. Now, let's practice this tense in the affirmative of the present perfect. Let's use eat. I have eaten. You have eaten. Say these with me. He has eaten. She has eaten. It has eaten. We have eaten. You have eaten, plural, and they have eaten. Got those? What about contractions? Now, we're going to remove the HA and add our apostrophe there. So, I have eaten becomes I've eaten. You have eaten becomes you've eaten. He has eaten becomes he's eaten. She has eaten becomes she's eaten. It has eaten becomes it's eaten. It's eaten, it's dinner. We've eaten. You've eaten. And they've eaten. Hear that V sound on the end of all those subject pronouns. I've, you've, we've, they've. Now, how about negatives? This is pretty simple. We have our subject or subject pronoun plus the negative of the helper verb plus the past participle. So, I plus have not plus eaten. I have not eaten. Let's practice that. I have not eaten. You. You tell me what's the past perfect, or the present perfect, excuse me, the present perfect negative form of you. Let me hear you. You have not eaten. He. He has not eaten. She. She has not eaten. It. It has not eaten. We. We have not eaten. You. You have not eaten. They. They have not eaten. Okay, you got that? Now, what about the negative contractions? Well, in this case, what we're going to do is to contract the word not. So it's I haven't eaten. This is especially true in American English. In Britain, you will more often than in America anyway, hear people say, I've not eaten, he's not eaten. This is not incorrect, it's just a more formal way of speaking. In America, we almost always say, I haven't eaten. You haven't eaten. He hasn't eaten. She hasn't eaten. It hasn't eaten. Has the dog eaten? No, it hasn't eaten. We haven't eaten. Come to somebody's house at night. They say, have you guys eaten? No, we haven't eaten. You haven't eaten. And they haven't eaten either. Very simple, right? I haven't, you haven't, he hasn't, she hasn't, it hasn't, we haven't, you haven't, they haven't, excuse me, eaten. But I have sneezed. How about interrogatives? The helper verb plus the subject pronoun. Here, our favorite trick for interrogatives, we invert the order of helper verb and subject pronoun plus the past participle. So what's that going to be? Have I eaten? With a question mark, of course. Have I eaten? If I don't know, who does, right? Let's take a look at these interrogatives. I have eaten becomes, have I eaten? Have you eaten? Repeat after me, okay? Has he eaten? Has she eaten? Has it eaten? Have we eaten? Have you eaten? Have they eaten? And of course, have I read the right assignment? Have you read my letter? Has he caught a fish? Has she been to the movies? Has it found the door, etc. All these past participles, along with these inverted pronouns and helper verb, have or has. Let's practice with eaten. I. Have I eaten? You. Have you eaten? He. Has he eaten? She. Has she eaten? It. Has it eaten? We. Have we eaten? You. Have you eaten? They. Have they eaten? Do you get those? I hope so. Now, let's talk about the use of these important prepositions for and since. When we use the prepositions for and since with the present perfect, we refer to something that began in the past and is still going on. Did you get that? It began in the past and it's still going on now. Let me give you some examples here. Monica said, "I've been a nurse for the last 6 years." So, 6 years ago, Monica became a nurse. And she is still a nurse today. So she says, "I've been a nurse for the last 6 years." Her being a nurse began in the past, and it's still going on today, because she is still a nurse. Mr. Campbell said, "We've lived in Washington ever since we first got married." So, Mr. and Mrs. Campbell got married, began to live in Washington, and for all that time up to right now, they still live in Washington. We've lived in Washington ever since we first got married. Now, for is always used with a period of time. Since is always used with a point in time. Let me repeat that. For is always used with a period of time. Since is always used with a point in time. Let me explain that more clearly. What do I mean by a period of time? For example, an hour, a day, a week, a month, etc. A period of time, an hour, a day, a week, a month. These are all periods of time. By the way, for example, when I use those letters e.g., it means for example. And when you see those letters etc., that means etc. Etc. is a way of saying and so forth. That means I've given you 4 examples, but there are many other examples too of periods of time. Right? An hour, a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade, a century, etc. Okay? Now, since we use with a point in time. For example, 3 a.m. or Donna's birthday or last week or a month ago or May 10th, 1915 or any other particular date. These are what I mean by a point in time. For is used with a period of time, a day, a week, a month. Since is used with a point in time, 3 a.m., Donna's birthday, last week, a month ago, May 10th, etc., etc., and so forth. Okay? Is that clear? let's take a look at some clauses. Phrases rather. For 2 days. For a week. For 6 years. For 10 minutes. Okay? Since August. Since 1996. Since 1 o'clock. Since we got married. Or ever since we got married, as Mr. Campbell said, right? So, do you understand now? We'll work on these in our exercises. And here we are, ready to start. In fact, let's start right now. Fill in the blanks with for or since. I have lived in Los Angeles, blank, 10 years. Now, is 10 years a period of time or a point in time? It's a period of time, so we use for. I have lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. How about I have lived in Los Angeles, blank, 1988? Is 1988 a period of time or a point in time? Well, it's a year. It's a particular year. It's a point in time. I have lived in Los Angeles since 1988. So those are our models. Let's take a look at some others. He has worked for LEI, blank, 1997. For or since? You tell me. He has worked for LEI since 1997. Why is that? Because, like 1988 in our model sentence, 1997 is a point in time. It's a year. He has worked for LEI since 1997. He has worked for LEI, blank, 2 years. Fill in the blank. He has worked for LEI for 2 years. Why? Because 2 years is a period of time. She has been here, blank, 9 o'clock. Fill in the blank. She has been here since 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock is a point in time. Oh. They have played chess, blank, 4 hours. They have played chess for 4 hours. If we had spelled out the word for rather than using the digit or the numeral for, you would see that it's spelled F-O-U-R. That's the difference between for, the number, and for, F-O-R, the preposition. They have played chess for 4 hours, because 4 hours is a period of time. It has rained, blank, an hour. Fill in the blank. It has rained for an hour. An hour is a period of time. It has rained for an hour. There goes our rain cloud. Now, how about this? He has worked for TAG, TAG, that is, TAG Engineering, blank, 2 years. Am I going to use for or since in that sentence? He has worked for TAG for 2 years. I have known him, blank, he was a boy. I was going to say a little boy. I have known him, blank, he was a boy. Fill in the blank. Did you say, I have known him since he was a boy? That's correct. Since he was a boy, because the time period when he was a boy is a point in time, the time of his boyhood. I have had that old car, blank, 7 years. I have had that old car for 7 years. It's a period of time, 7 years. Now, here's a different kind of exercise. What I'd like you to do now is to change the tense from the simple present to the simple past to the present perfect. Let's take a look at this example. You'll notice that the color that I've used to give you the name of the tense is also the color of the sentence that is written in that particular tense. So, simple present, she cooks chicken. Simple past, she cooked chicken. Present perfect, she has cooked chicken. Cooks, cooked, cooked, has cooked. Okay? Let's try another one. I'll give you the simple present. They play soccer. What's the simple past? They played soccer. And how about the present perfect? It's a regular verb. They have played soccer. Play, played, have played. He sells newspapers. Give it to me in the past tense, the simple past. Irregular verb. He sold newspapers. And what about the present perfect? This is one where the past participle is the same as the simple past tense. He has sold newspapers. He sells newspapers. He sold newspapers. He has sold newspapers. It rains. Remember, we always use it with weather conditions. It's sunny. It's cold. It's warm. It's beautiful. It rains. It rains a lot during the monsoon season in Asia. How about the past tense, the simple past? Today it rains. Yesterday it rained. And it blank blank all week. Give me the present perfect for rain. Did you say it has rained? That's correct. It rains, it rained, it has rained. How about this one? They speak Russian. You see very typical Russian domes there, the Kremlin. They speak Russian. Give me the simple past. Good. Did you say they spoke Russian? And how about now the present perfect? They Good. They have spoken Russian. They speak, they spoke, they have spoken. Now let's go on to another kind of exercise here. So we have here a statement in the present. He goes to LEI. So what I want you to do, oh, this is another one of our same ones, isn't it? I'm sorry. Change the tense from simple present to the simple past to the present perfect. He goes to LEI, past. He went to LEI, present perfect. He has gone to LEI. Now, in this case, we're going to be using time expressions to form two new sentences. For example, John says, I drive to work. Now, our time expressions here are yesterday and for the last 6 years. What tense would you use with yesterday? That's right, simple past. What tense would you use for the last 6 years? Good, the present perfect. So let's make up our sentence using the time expression yesterday. Today I drive to work, says John. Yesterday I drove to work yesterday. And how about for the last 6 years? The past participle is driven. I have driven to work for the last 6 years. Let's go on. Well, here's David. David says, I play golf. The time expressions are since I was a child and last weekend. Use since I was a child. I have played golf since I was a child. And how about last weekend? Good. I played golf last weekend. Let's try another one. Monica says, I study English. The time expressions are last January and last night. Or since January, by the way. Sorry, it's not last, it's since January. Monica says, do since January. I have studied English since January. How about the past, the simple past, using last night? Good. I studied English last night. Now, here's Donna. She says, I eat Italian food. The time expressions are last week and since I was a teenager. Let's do last week. Donna says, I ate Italian food last week. How about since I was a teenager? I have eaten Italian food since I was a teenager. Now here's Mr. Maxwell. Mr. Maxwell says, the restaurant is open. The time expressions are for an hour and yesterday. Let's start with for an hour. Mr. Maxwell says, the restaurant has been open for an hour. Remember, been is the past participle of the verb be. So the restaurant has been open for an hour. Now, how about yesterday? The restaurant was open yesterday. Kelsey says, I do my homework. Time expressions are every night this week and at 6 o'clock. Every night this week. Kelsey should say, I have done my homework every night this week. How about at 6 o'clock? I did my homework at 6 o'clock. Now, let's try another experiment here, another lesson, another exercise. Make tag questions with the present perfect. Remember tag questions? You remember tag questions, don't you? Let's try some with the present perfect. For example, he has done his homework. That would be, he has done his homework. And what's our helper verb? Hasn't he? You get that? He has done his homework, hasn't he? Monica has studied English at LEI for the last 6 months. Remember, if it is an affirmative statement, the tag question is going to be negative. If it's a negative statement, the tag question will be affirmative. Monica has studied English at LEI for the last 6 months. Hasn't she? Now, John hasn't spoken to Mr. Maxwell. Blank. Negative helper verb means that we have a tag question which is affirmative. John hasn't spoken to Mr. Maxwell. Has he? You haven't broken the window, says the mother to the child. You haven't broken the window. Have you? She has sold her house. She has sold her house, hasn't she? Oh, there it goes. No more house. So, you have understood this lesson, haven't you? I certainly hope you have understood it because I have taught it for you. Thanks for studying English with me here at LEI.